Okay, hello, good afternoon. I was waiting for an introduction from Tom. Just a funny thing. Once I got an email from Tom, I was sitting with some friends, and someone was like, Tom Jones is emailing you? Because they thought he was the singer. And I said, no, an even better one. But yet he didn't sing for me yet, so we're waiting for that. It's been a long day, good day, but just before we start this last panel, saying that youth is not the last and the least, I would do one thing for all of us, that we all do it together. It's wait with what we're doing and just take one deep breath, all of us, please. Okay. Hi, I'm Anja Fortuna. I work for Rural Youth Europe as Programs Manager. But rural youth is something that I have lived. Rural topics, something that I adore doing. And I think that we're all so excited about it that sometimes we forget to breathe, take a pause, to reflect what we have been doing, especially on days like this. I was lucky enough that my parents were able to send me to Ljubljana, to our capital, for my high school. So I was living there throughout the week, and I was often quite silent with where I come from, that I'm a rural person. I even ignored the farming at all, because it meant in Ljubljana that I'm someone that is, in the backwards, someone that doesn't have the same opportunities. Until curious occasions when I joined my local rural youth club and Slovenian Rural Youth Association that sent me to Rural Youth Europe as a volunteer to different events, where I found my passion and my sense of belonging to rural areas. And I think this is one of the most important parts of youth organizations also, that they kind of keep you back to your roots, that they keep you grounded, and that they give you this sense of honor and pride. Something that I think it's keeping rural people in rural areas, and the ones that have sadly lost it because of the realities that they are living it got them to leave those areas, to get them to live somewhere else. Rural Youth Europe is then the organization that is putting this forward, so it's trying to kind of keep the spirit of young people in rural areas alive, giving them different skills, but also, first and foremost, giving them the sense of belonging, that they're part of rural areas, and that this is something they should be proud of and not ashamed of. And today with me, a great panel of 4 speakers that I'm really excited to hear from in the next few minutes, because we're getting late, quite late, but we're still going to give you the time to share your story and to give us your examples of what are the things that rural areas need, especially as young people from those areas or working with young people from those areas. We have with us Martin, Sebastian, Adam and Monica, and I will let you introduce a bit yourself, your story, and then we'll continue with this. I suggest, Martin, you start.
Hi, my name is Martin Koreman. I'm from the Netherlands, and I work for the Dutch Association of Small Villages, which represents about 4,000 village councils and village halls. So these are all voluntary-led civil society organizations strengthening their own community. We do events like the Dutch Rural Parliament and connecting people. We represent rural communities at the political level, but we also do projects on topics that matter to our members. And one of these topics is rural youth. I've myself done a PhD on that topic. Finished last year. And now, in the past few months, I visited 10 villages in the Netherlands and talked with young people. And these were not people that are part already of political groups, that are already talking on levels like this. I think they would all hate to sit here all this day. And they're not the only one. But looking at some people in the room. But most importantly, they're practically educated people for a large part who just want something done. They're annoyed by their local government, their national government, and the European government. Many of them are voting Eurosceptic parties or not voting at all. And I think I can really understand why they do that. I've talked with them about what is important to them, what they do. They do a lot for communities, a lot. They don't know about any leader project, they just do that. They're not getting any funding for it. They're not even asking for it always, sometimes they do. But I've also talked about the problems they encounter. And none of these problems have been mentioned this morning. So that's a problem in and of itself. There was no one... there were some farmers in the group, but not many, because that's representative of the rural youth in the Netherlands. There's just a few farmers. So none of them was asking for a wife to be found somewhere. No, they're worried about housing. They're worried about public transportation. They're worried about finding places to meet each other, about loneliness sometimes. They're worried about regulations, making it impossible to... So once they organize something, there are regulations and red tape that makes it really impossible to do that. These are the things that young people that I spoke to care about. And they're looking for someone to help them and to improve their current situation. And if rural development is not going to be done by the European Commission anymore, then they're not going to get more enthusiastic about the European Commission and the European Union. So I think it's really important to listen to these people, to give them a place, and to also change yourself as institutions to create platforms where they can talk and where they feel safe to talk. And that also means that some things need to be organized differently. I think that's the most important thing from the project that I got.
Thank you. Sebastian? Yeah. So now hearing about the voice of young farmers. Sebastian, please.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation to speak here. You asked about our story. I would say my story is the one of someone working for a very fascinating organization. It's CIJA, the European Council of Young Farmers. So I would start maybe quickly with what is CIJA? Maybe who ever heard about CIJA here in that room? I'm always curious. That's good to see. So I will make a quick reminder for those who don't know about it. So we are an umbrella organization that represents young farmers. We have 33 national member organizations. Actually, we have Simon here that is representing, he's the president of one of our Polish members. And so this is really the driver of what we are doing. We are representing young farmers from these 33 member organizations. We have a board of elected young farmers. They are really the face of the organization. Unfortunately, today they are not in Brussels, so I'm here to represent them. And we have a staff in Brussels, which is also, maybe I would make it a point here, a very important element, and we're very grateful to have this capacity of having, it's a humble staff, but it is one. And when we talk about the EU level, this is very important to have that contact point with the EU institutions, with the stakeholders that are present here. So our core mission is generational renewal in agriculture. So you've heard a lot about it this morning as well, also from the Commissioner Hansen himself. So that's really the core mission of CIJA. It has been the case for decades. We've been bringing that topic on the EU agenda for decades. And now we're very happy to see this being one, or if not the priority of the mandate that is starting here. So when it comes to generational renewal, we often want to underline that there is a worrying trend, but the fact that now it is a well-known trend. We have lots of reports. We have all the institutions that are identifying it. We have the work of the CAP network as well that is being done, and I saw the report published today or yesterday. So we have a lot of data. We have a lot of things. I know it's always more challenging data with then going to the policy making, but we know it already. We have a generation that is full of ideas, full of projects, but still we have barriers to enter the sector for farming, but more generally also in this room to encompass also the other profession in rural areas. We have that barrier to be to thrive in rural areas. So in terms of topic, and I will make it brief on this, we talk about access to land, access to credit, access to finance. We did not mention banks here today. I don't think so. Maybe we have something to do also the dialogue with because we talk a lot about subsidies, about funding from public money. What's the role also of private actors in all of this? Knowledge, education, and skills was mentioned a lot already. Income, social inclusion, value chain aspect. We also have quite a lot on talking about social inclusion. For instance, we have a project on mental health in agriculture. We know that's a big topic among young farmers because it can be a very isolating profession, lots of risks, lots of uncertainties because climate change is there, because markets are volatile, etc. So how do we deal with all of those topics? And last but not least, I would not forget it here, the attractiveness of rural areas. So maybe you asked to leave very few big messages. Maybe the first one would be, I am sorry to go back to this budget and money. I'm saying this because I have this chance to be in contact with young farmers from all over Europe and be at this EU level. If we talk about EU level here, it was mentioned this morning, budget is going to be a key issue and it's around the corner. The MFF proposal is around the corner. It's going to be mid-2025. Negotiation will happen. They're already happening at council level between heads of states. So this is really a strong message I want to leave here. And maybe echo what was said by the commissioner himself again yesterday in Agri committee and also this morning. I want to be committed, but I need you and I need your national governments. And I would even add, I need your local governments because we are also in contact with some regions telling us that they are worried about the rumors on the new budget for the EU. Secondly, the responsibility of member states on certain aspects. Here I have an example. I mentioned access to land. The common agricultural policy cannot be what will fill the shortcomings of the national social policy on pensions. You have low pensions, so therefore you have land that is being, you have land retention to keep a certain, and it makes sense, a certain living at the end of your career, but then you have difficult generational renewal. So that's an example. It's more complex than it seems, but that's an element. And then the last one here, our voice. So thank you very much again for creating that space here. We are very often also in the ESC building for events of the ESC, of the Committee of the Region. Thank you to the European Rural Parliament. So that's really an important element. I will stop here. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Sebastian. And now giving the word to Adam Bisek from Forum Synergies.
Yeah, thank you. So a little bit about myself. Maybe I represent a reverse, I don't know what I represent, but a reverse movement of people. Instead of young people moving away or looking away from rural areas, instead a city boy who finds their heart in rural areas and wishes to see them become an important part in our wider transitions as sustainable European societies. I'm from Stockholm. It's the capital city of Sweden. But my dad used to be a farmer, actually, from New Zealand. He grew up in a very remote region of New Zealand, hence the slight accent on my side. And he always told me, never get into farming, Adam. Like, it's the worst. All of us left when we were 16. We went to the big city, which would be a very small town in European ways, but in New Zealand, it's a huge place. And he would talk about my granddad, his father, that, you know, he was a successful accountant, and then he just decided, no, I'm going to go and live off the land and live next to this gorgeous river. And no one in the family can understand him. My grandma would cry several nights, you know, being like, oh my God, I lost the city life, and now I'm in this rural area, oh my goodness. But I can suppose that a lot of you might also recognize what my granddad was probably thinking, and I recognize that too. So in a way, we're going full circle. And my actually, Forum Synergies, who are we? We're a non-profit network that aims at connecting citizens, organizations, and practitioners to bring them together to have real-life opportunities to exchange ideas and to support sustainable rural development. So I came fresh out of university and I applied. I heard it from a friend who actually lives here in Brussels that I'm staying with at the moment. And I was offered to go to Armenia and live in the Armenian rural countryside for 2 weeks, where I learned a lot. And coupled with some experiences in the Balkans, living with rural communities in Kosovo and Montenegro and Albania, led me with some thoughts that I'd like to share, as well from Sweden. And I know everyone's probably really tired, so I'm going to try to keep this brief. There are two messages here, really. As young people, we would like help from you, and we would also like recognition. And we would like recognition as important drivers and as an important actor and stakeholder for a resilient rural Europe, essentially. I'll go in a little bit exactly what I mean by that. So myself and many other of my friends and other networks that other young people I've met through my days driving around rural Europe, we really want to see strong rural communities. And we have these WhatsApp groups, for example, where we talk about, oh, could we do this, could we do that? And everything just kind of stops in this app because there isn't funding, there isn't this support from local communities. How do we get it done? And what happens is that we dream about, a lot of us, we want to not only own land and build a nice farm, right, that maybe my granddad envisioned, but really we want to try to build resilient communities in Europe. A lot of us, myself included, are extremely motivated by climate change. This is extremely worrying. So we need to rethink our food systems. We need to, essentially for us, a rural Europe and a strong rural Europe is the key, essentially, to succeed in these sustainability transitions. But for this to happen, we need a strong rural movement. And for a strong rural movement to be resilient, we think youth must be recognized, essentially, as an important key and as a player in this transition. Anita, who was here before, she left, unfortunately, but she said something that, you know, these discussions we have now, they shouldn't stop. You know, I know all of you are itching to go away, but when we go away, we shouldn't leave all of this. We need to continuously work, and sometimes youth voices like today, it becomes the last thing of the day, essentially, and then it stops there. So the way we see is that youth need to be engaged consistently and constantly in rural development. And what does engage constantly mean? It means, my second point, recognition. And I hate to say it, but recognition also means investment and capacity. And this ultimately means policy at the end of the day. And of course we can talk about, all right, we have this and this policy, sometimes speaking to the commissioners, like running into a brick wall or something like that. But we need to, as a rural group, come and identify, actually, facilitating youth transition and intergenerational justice is important. And then I have a practical suggestion, which has nothing to do with policy, but something that we can all bring with us today, and hopefully maybe talk about in Scotland. And that is a rural experience hub. What is this? We're not quite sure exactly yet, and we need your help to try to identify, should we say, build upon this. And that is essentially to create a facilitated space for intergenerational collaboration for resilience in rural communities. And we would like your support to create these spaces, not only for us urban people who want to move out to rural communities, but also for existing youth in rural communities. What can we offer in exchange as young people? A willingness to learn from older generations. In order for land to be continued to work and these communities to be prosperous, we need to learn from what was before. But we also bring fresh ideas. Sustainability, I mean, there's so many different ideas about how a sustainable European rural life can look like. We want to try to talk these ideas with you. And really, at the end of the day, it's about creating a shared vision for what our rural Europe should look like. And this is the big how. How do we do that? So I want to leave you with that, and I hope we can discuss this more in Scotland. And there's been talk about rural youth summits in Scotland, which is really cool to see. Maybe we can talk about this more. What can we actually do to institutionalize or facilitate youth engagement after, say, an ad hoc meeting in Scotland in this case, but going forward? Yeah, I'll say thank you for listening.
Thank you, Adam. And now Monica from Slovakian Rural Parliament. Please go ahead.
Hello, from my side as well. I come from Slovakia and I represent here Slovak Rural Parliament, which is a platform for gathering rural stakeholders. It's an NGO and we foster dialogue between rural people and the policymakers. Additionally, I represent Rural Youth Parliament in Slovakia here, which focus on rural youth and youth work in rural areas. I want to bring three key messages from Slovakia, from our inside and from our work in rural areas in our countries, and a bit to reflect what was said in the previous sessions. First of all, I would like to mention that in Slovakia we developed the vision for more attractive rural areas parallelly with the European vision for rural areas. And this document has a vision to bring this idea as a strategy for our governments, because we are missing the horizontal approach from the state side on the impact of rural areas. So that's the first one. The second one I would like to mention is that we organize a rural forum. We call it Rural Forum in Slovakia, and the organization name is the Rural Parliament, so don't be mixed with this. We have it quite different to the other countries, and we organized the Rural Forum since 1999, so it was the 13th edition last year in October, and the title was the Smart Rural Communities in the Digital Era, and we were running the 4 parallel workshops. The first one was rural women, or the women living in the countryside, smart villages, rural youth, and rural pact. And the even highlighted the potential of smart solution and digital innovation to address challenges and unlock opportunities in rural areas. And my third point, and the most important for this panel discussion, is that the Rural Youth Parliament in Slovakia is dedicated to addressing the unique needs and opportunities of young people in rural areas. And since this year we are starting to pilot the new program in Slovakia for young people living in rural areas, and we got the inspiration from Romania, from ADA Association, and this program is called European Youth Village Program. Maybe some of you heard about it. They started to implement this program since 2019. And already it is a proved program how to work with rural youth, and it's very successful and mighty tool how to engage young people in rural areas, and it's kind of a mentorship program. So it's based on that we find young leaders in rural areas, and they are surrounded by another 5 people in their village or in their community, and we mentor them how to be engaged in their community. So it's about the community organizing, and so we got this inspiration from Romania, and the program was developed by Victor Toma. And another event what we are organizing building up on this program is ERIS, European Rural Youth Summit. Maybe some of you were part of it. There were 2 editions already. They were last year and the year before, and it was in Romania, and it gathered over 100 people each year there from whole Europe. And the National Agency of Erasmus Plus is supporting this event. And this year, in August, we are organizing it in Slovakia. So all of you who is interested in rural youth gathering, so you can, you are invited to come. And Erasmus Plus will be organizing it, like to give us a support with funds and funding it, and through the Salto network, maybe you know Salto, so there will be the registration. So feel free to register for this event, and we will be happy to welcome you in Slovakia for European Rural Youth Summit this year. It's 3rd edition. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Given our time, I would kind of turn towards you, our audience. If you have any other questions on this, any comments on it, the important points that were brought here cover from housing to youth engagement to farmers. And yeah, we do have our hand there, but please go ahead and introduce yourself as well, please.
Good evening. Oh, that was me or Mr. Thomas? Yeah, me. So good evening or good afternoon, maybe. Thank you for your very interesting insights. It was really very inspiring for me to listen to this, because I had a just flash, because I just recognized myself in the same shoes you were talking. It was not listening at all? Oh, okay, good. Because I remember I was 17 years old when I was finishing the university, and it's very popular because to move to the capital, because even my parents were saying that, Lana, you have a big perspectives, you must not stay in the countryside. Okay, I was thinking about going to my university, but somehow I was at the last year of the school. Also, there was a lag. My lag was the first lag in Georgia. So I became a lag member at the time. And from time to time, I was recognizing and found myself as a decision maker of my city. And it was like a feeling that, okay, I'm going to the capital in Tbilisi, but somehow I have feeling that I can make a lot of things in the city where I was born and grew up. And so the lag was one of the biggest thing that could have happened in my life, because without lag, I'm sure that I will never go back, because in like a younger generation, it's very romanticized to go to the capital and go on your life there. From time to time, I found out that it was not only in case of me, but I could bring benefits to another lag youth people in Georgia. So then in 2018, we made an association of all of the local action groups in Georgia. And I decided to start working, so my direction was mostly youth and women entrepreneurship. And somehow, to tell you the truth, I was like that much focused on youth work, and that much focused on how youth can contribute to the regions. And mostly sometimes we, actually young people, miss the sense that even younger people have been the same old of us a couple of years ago. And most of the things that I have ever learned are learned from the older people, and thank you for these competencies. I don't think that it's all agree everything that we just mentioned, but however, what we mostly miss when we talk about the youth engagement is that it's not about the youth and older people competition. It's just about the joint efforts that we should bring on the table, because without older people's competencies, we will just lose a lot of things, because we have to create a new bicycle from again. That takes a lot of time. So thank you for your amazing competencies. And Adam, this is a very important thing that you just mentioned. Recognition of young people is what makes you feel important, that you belong there. So the recognition that LAG gave me made me recognize the feeling that I was decision maker to my place. And 2 weeks ago, I got a chairperson of the association. And so my following 2 years, my main aim is to let all of the rural people around Georgia, first of all, and then maybe outside of Georgia either, to find the perspectives of how beautiful it is to contribute to your country life perspectives. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to hear this kind of experiences. Tom, please.
All I wanted to do in thanking all of you is to apologise as one of the conveners of this day's event that you've been at the end of the day and that we were late getting to you, because we should have had you there from the beginning. When the last midterm event was held, we had young people sitting alongside us throughout the day. In other words, you need to have your own session, but you also need to be part of the other discussions. And for some reason, and I'm not sure why, that hasn't happened as I would have wished today. I think partly is that we've lost, us ERP steering group, the connectivity between the last youth group that was with us in Kilshay, which brought forward some fantastic ideas, but there is no structure in place which we will have to help with you design so that we can just send an email and there will be a grouping of young people ready and able to help us. So it's an apology from me, and I'm sure on behalf of the steering group as well, that you deserve to be in the centre of all of this today, but I'm very grateful to you for staying with us till the end today and inspiring us with all your thoughts and suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mildred.
Yeah, if I just can go a bit further for that, thank you, Tom, for that. But we are at the steering group quite old, and then it would be really good to have young people there. So I would like, and Adam, thank you for actually sharing that idea about, how do you call it, rural experience hub. I think it's quite amazing idea. And then basically that you show us recognition, and then thank you for that. We have, I think, some experience that we obviously can share with you. And then if we will not provide recognition to you, we will be really lost. So there is no any other solution for us. So we have to know that. So I would like actually to suggest, if there is other agreement of the other member of the steering group, not to wait for the Scotland, but before the Scotland to have the specific whatever webinar or however to organize it with that theme about rural experience hubs. So if there is agreement, but I can see there is shaking heads like this. So probably there is agreement within the European steering group, European Rural Parliament steering group. So let's be in contact and to do that if you are okay with that. Okay, thanks.
Great. Yeah, thank you. I think all sitting at this table would be willing to take part, even Rural Youth Europe. I already talked to Goran and Anita and the rest of the team. We as Rural Youth Europe, the biggest rural youth representation, are also willing and committed to joining such efforts, and especially with our sister organization CEJA, representing young farmers. There's a lot of different efforts that we're willing to bring to the table. Okay. Thank you from your side. And maybe if you want to finish with one final word, sometimes silence also speaks a lot. So just if there are some really quick things and urgent things, you can address them. But otherwise, I would thank you and close the meeting. So, any?
Yeah, I would like to thank you for your comments and your ideas. I just think what I learned from the project, and also being quite a young person myself, on how this works. If you include a young person, that's maybe not enough, because the people I spoke to, some of them were part of a village council, for instance. So they've gone through all these hoops that many in their generation don't go through, and they go along with the system. So they're fine with it. But the point is that that's just a very small percentage. Not many people get into a loch locally, unfortunately. So the point is, if you are going to have young people part of your organization and the way you work, you have to change the way you work. That's the first thing. Otherwise, it's just a few people who will go along the way you're used to do things, but then you haven't really reached the group that is currently not a part of it and who are doing very cool things in community building throughout rural areas. That's why they want to stay. So many young people want to stay and are staying in rural areas, use their knowledge and their insights, I would say.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to now give the word to Hansen Lorentzen for final remarks. Did I say it correctly? Actually, we were sitting the whole day together, but yet we didn't manage to figure out the right pronunciation of your name.
It was wonderful.
Okay, great.
I like different pronunciations of my name. It's not so difficult. Exactly. Yeah, Hansen. Yes, I was asked to kind of conclude on this day. And that's, of course, not very easy, but I will try it this way. Good news, bad news, look into the future. And I start with the good news. The good news is we have created over all these years an enormous treasure of values, of real action, of being European and being at the same time very local. We have together created one national rural parliament after the other. We have been a long time in an expansion without any limitation. The European Rural Parliament has gathered over time a lot of knowledge, a lot of wealth of being connected. And we are here in a moment when other people might feel like the crisis is too much and we talk about crisis, how do we manage it? That is a lot of wealth. That is really something unusual. And it's, I think, not by chance that the Commissioner is happy to come. And it seems that we've always been talking about our voice must be heard more. It is heard more. The question is, where's the action? That's the first thing of the good news. Of the good news, I would like to add that now we have young people saying, well, this is interesting. We don't have to kick them. They want it. They want to have their place. And while we are getting older, they are moving in. And I think the very good question was, how do you recognize us in what we want to achieve? I think there's even more. How do you want to accompany us so that we really can take over? And it's not keeping them at the side of us, it's stepping out of the scene and giving them the space to do it. I think that's the challenge also for the next rural parliament in Scotland. It's incredible if you count all the different levels in which visions, pacts, tools, smart villages, whatever have come up. I think it's also part of us that have kicked that have moved that forward. But still, there is not really a very serious financial, political backup of all these instruments. They look like the Commission is doing a lot about it, but where are the financial means? Where are the structures in which that really can thrive and develop? There's a question mark, and you feel I'm slowly moving into the bad news. Well, the bad news is, and Sebastian has very clearly put it again, and I did it earlier, we can have super ideas, visions, pacts, whatsoever. If we don't have the financial means to develop that further, we will be put aside as an interesting group of people who have wonderful ideas and share the views that something must be done, even if it's not done. Have a look at our declarations of the European rural parliaments. They have hardly changed. They are the same demands, the same analysis, the same questions. Are we not innovative? No. We are moving with the questions that are coming up. But reality around us is not moving in that direction which we are demanding. So it's not a question whether we have to have better declarations. It's the questions where we can build a critical substance of people with whom we can be a weight in the next decisions on budgets and on policies. This is an important moment. The next parliament will be an important moment. But as Vanessa said at the beginning, you know, we have these bridge where we have strong moments, we all come together, we have the feeling, great, we have something, and then it slowly moves out of the picture. And then we prepare for the next peak. But in between, something must happen. And here I come to the questions of the future. What if? Farmers have come to the streets with their biggest tractors. They have shown society, not with us, not like this. And you see what the Commission has done? Very quickly, all the bureaucratic things out of the way. With it, all the ambitions about environment, climate change, and whatsoever, just by chance. Right? We don't have tractors. We need coalitions. Hela Sverigeska Leva started with the demand, take care of us in the rural areas. Don't only look at farmers. Our whole movement so far has been us against the farmers, or at least the farmers are better off like us. They take all the money, they have the hectares, they have the tractors. We are just the leftovers in the rural areas. That was always a little bit the spirit in our movement. I think we have to rethink it. We need new coalitions. We need to come closer to farmers. We need to work together because it's no either or. There is no either or in rural areas. I will just give you one example also about investments. We all talk about investments. Investments are needed, the money must come in, the public money must go here, it must go there. I think we also must think about partners in new kinds of investment. And that now here I come to youth. I'm working with a young farmer on my home island on organic seeds. That's a very special thing. It's a new market, perhaps or perhaps not, but it's a risk to start to work on organic seeds. He said, I'm interested, but it's a too big risk. I said, I come in, 50-50. I take the risk. You will not have to pay on top of the costs you have. And so we made a kind of deal. This is the time of deals, right? We are now getting into a sphere in where everybody talks about deals. I think we have to talk about co-responsibility, just like between the generations. If we want to support young people to stay in rural areas, not only talk of the right to stay, very nice, but if you have the right to stay and you cannot stay, you can claim, I have the right to stay. Nobody cares. It needs investment in terms of being present for young people, that they feel the rural area is their area and they are supported by society. Why do we have so much populism in rural areas, so much really negative polarization? Well, everybody has said it, because the rural areas feel abandoned. We have to be there, much more present. We have to create moments where we exchange on the problems, but where we have a hub where we can say, this is the way we do it. And so many people have left the rural areas because they thought it's a better life in the cities. And they've made their money there. Well, why shouldn't they invest if we create structures into funds that are not global capital markets of banks, but in concrete projects? Invite people to do that. In your village, whatsoever. You create funds, you contact the people that have left the area, and you say, look, here's a tool for local energy. Here's a tool for sustainable food system. Here's the local way of creating added value. Because we cannot be sure that this time in which we are entering, of trade wars, of confrontations, of struggle about competitiveness, we should not lose the values of Europe, which are cooperation, solidarity, cohesion. We can be proud of that, but it's no guarantee it's going to stay. I have to finish, I'm aware of that. But I was supposed to conclude. It's not so easy. But I think I would like to close with Eric's word. With all the sad things that are coming up at the horizon, we don't want to be sad. We want to be happy. But we have to do something for it. And I come back to the key point. We need to create new partnerships. We need to become a critical mass that is not only listened to, but that creates the pressure that the policy changes and that the things are really put completely new in relations between people living in rural areas and in urban areas. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 more minutes of interpretation, so maybe Tom, the final word.
Well, I'm not going to disturb that conclusion. I think, Hannes, and it was my choice from the beginning that you would be summing up, because you are a thinker and you do think outside the box. And I think we need to remember what you've said, so I'm not going to disturb that. I just want to very, very briefly thank everybody for staying the day, staying the course. And my special thanks is to the European Economic and Social Committee, my former colleagues, for facilitating this event. It's been a wonderful cooperative venture, and I'm very, very grateful for all the help I've had from Martin and Nicholas and your colleagues, and to the interpreters who've been with us all day as well. But my main thanks is to all of you for being here, speaking, debating, discussing. And I know we will have an excellent European Rural Parliament in Scotland, and where the young people, I know, will have a proper place in those proceedings. So I do urge all of you, when the invitation comes, book your places, and we will see you in October in sunny Scotland. Thank you very much.